Hi, today's video is sponsored by
Ladies and gentlemen.
Man, getting too old for this. Well, welcome back. It's been a while. As you can see, things are a little different. I finished school and I moved, but who cares? Today we're going to do something a little bit different. For those of you who have watched the channel for a little while, you might remember a little while ago I did a video where I read a children's book. I got somewhat mixed reactions to that video. Some people told me that was their favorite thing I've ever done, and some people straight up told me to my face that they thought it was boring. So I'm gonna do it again, mostly because I really enjoyed doing that video. It was really fun to make, and I don't know, I enjoy children's books. They're fun and I like them. So I thought, why not give it another go? The book that I want to read for you today is called I Am a Duck by Mike Wilkins and Jeff Wakefield. There's actually a really cool story behind this book, why I chose this book, why I happen to have this book. So when I was a kid, my school had this thing where every year they would have sort of a public speaking competition. And for the younger grades, what you did was you memorized a story of your choosing, kind of based on your reading skill level, and you memorized that story and then you told it in front of the class. And everyone would get a chance to tell their story. Then the two best students who got the highest grades on their storytelling assignment would get a chance to go in front of the entire school at a big assembly and present their story to all the other students and all the parents and everybody. And when I was in, I think, grade 3, I memorized this book, I Am a Duck, and I presented it in front of my class, and then I got to present it in front of the whole school. And that was a really cool experience because I really loved the book when I was a kid, and I still do love the book. And it was also really cool because it was probably my first public speaking experience. And so yeah, it was just a really fun memory. So obviously that was a really long time ago. But the reason I have this book now is because last Christmas, my angel of a mother actually got me this book for Christmas, and it was such a sweet and wonderful surprise. And like I said, I love this book a lot, so I thought maybe I would share it with all of you, and you can make your own judgments, but please don't ruin my childhood. But without any further ado, let's just jump into this thing. I Am a Duck by Mike Wilkins and Jeff Wakefield. To Debbie, who has never wanted to be a duck. My name is Simon, and I am a duck. Simon was not really a duck. He was really just a little boy. In fact, he was a very ordinary little boy, except for one thing. He wanted to be a duck. Simon had wanted to be a duck for as long as he could remember. He had wanted to be a duck for so long that he could not even remember why. Every day on his way to school, when all the other children were laughing and joking and telling funny stories, Simon walked down the sidewalk all by himself, wishing that he were a duck. He gazed up into the blue sky and smiled at the bright yellow sun shining down on him. My name is Simon, and I am a duck, he said over and over to himself, but he knew that he was not. One day in school, Simon pretended that he was a duck. The teacher called out his name, and instead of saying, "Yes, Mrs. Huckleberry," he just said, "Quack." All of the other children thought he was very funny, but Mrs. Huckleberry did not. She made Simon stay in late and write on the blackboard 500 times, "I must not quack in school." One night, as Simon was falling asleep, he thought he heard a duck flying around in his backyard. He jumped from his bed very quickly to see if it really was a duck. He jumped up so quickly that he hit his head on his bookshelf. In fact, he hit his head so hard that he forgot all about the duck sound coming from the backyard. He forgot all about everything else, too. Everything became black and silent and strange. When Simon woke up, everything was still very black and silent and strange. He reached out to turn on the lamp, but it was not there. The more he felt around for it, the more confused he became. He did not understand at all. It seemed as if he was not in his bed, but curled up inside a smooth, round, very dark container. Well, it's not really round, Simon said to himself. It's kind of egg-shaped. Egg-shaped? That gave Simon an idea. He drew a deep breath and kicked out as hard as he could. There was a loud cracking sound. Crack! Suddenly everything was light. Simon blinked his eyes. He tried to rub them with his fingers, but his feathers got in the way. "My feathers!" cried Simon, and then he knew. "It's true! It's true!" he yelled. "I am a duck! My name is Simon, and I am a duck!" Yes, it was true. Somehow Simon was a duck, and the container he had broken out of was his egg. With a funny but very happy quack, Simon wobbled out of the nest that his egg was in, pushed through some tall cattails, and plopped into the big blue pond nearby. "Look at me!" he shouted as he swam around in little lopsided circles. "Look, everybody! I am a duck!" But after Simon had paddled around for a while, he became very, very tired. "Being a duck is not as easy as it looks," he said out loud as he climbed back on shore. "I beg your pardon," said a voice. Simon did not know there was anyone else around. He looked up. There in front of him was a wise old drake. "Hi there, sir," said Simon. "My name is Simon, and I am a duck." "Well, you won't be a duck for very long if you carry on like that," replied the drake. "A little duckling like you could get eaten by a pike. And you were swimming right there in the middle of the pond where every pike in the neighborhood could see you." "Eaten by a pike?" asked Simon. "There are snapping turtles and water snakes around here too," continued the drake. "Snapping turtles and water snakes?" asked Simon. "Eagles and hawks are not such a problem as they used to be, but we still see a few," added the drake. "Eagles and hawks?" asked Simon. "And then there are hunters with shotguns, although they don't usually come around until autumn," concluded the drake. "Hunters? With shotguns?" asked Simon. "I didn't know this was such a dangerous business." "Oh yes," said the drake. "You have to be pretty sharp to make it as a duck these days." "Thanks a lot for telling me these things, sir," Simon said. "Now can you tell me one more thing?" "Certainly," answered the drake. "What would you like to know?" "I was just wondering if you remember seeing a freshly cracked egg around here somewhere. I'm not really sure where I left mine." "Oh yes," replied the drake. "I spotted it as I flew in." He showed Simon the cattails that the egg was lying behind, and a safe way to get across the pond without being noticed by the pikes and the turtles and the snakes and the eagles and the hawks. "Thank you very much, sir," said Simon, as he started off towards the nest. "Thank you very much indeed." Soon Simon was sitting in his nest between the two halves of the cracked egg. Balancing carefully, he crawled into the big half. As gently as he could with his two feathery wings, he put the other half in place. The two halves fitted together very well. Everything was dark. "My name is Simon, and I don't want to be a duck anymore," he said, hoping someone would hear. "Did you hear me out there?" he yelled. "My name is Simon, and I don't want to be a duck." Then he screamed as loudly as he could, "I don't want to be a duck!" In a few moments, after he had stopped crying, he saw that he was no longer a duck at all. He was just Simon, an ordinary little boy, sitting up straight in his ordinary little bed. Things were much different for Simon from then on. The next morning, on his way to school, he did not even think about ducks. As he walked along the sidewalk, he gazed up into the blue sky and smiled at the bright yellow sun shining down on him. "My name is Simon, and I am a moose." The end. Like and subscribe.